But you were kind of a jock, too, when you were in high school, right? You weren't just boy crazy. Didn't you play basketball?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, Orville was in a horrible wreck. I had a 16th birthday party. That was another instance. Dad wouldn't take me to town. I was having this party, and I needed all these things for the party. And so I got out and hitchhiked, and Mr. Yates, Kobe Yates, was the next door neighbor, and he took me to town and got me all the stuff and brought me back. And we had a fabulous...
So you had the party at your parents' house?
Yeah, out in the front yard. We played all these games and everything.
Dad was born, or his birthday is in June, so it's
16th, so the party was the 15th, the night before his birthday. Well, the next day, there was a group from Nelson that was cutting red top, and so it was raining, so they couldn't cut the red top. And so Orville and this boy from Nelson...
what is red top? Is that a kind of wheat?
It's kind of like a wheat. Mm-hmm. It's a seed that they cut. But anyway, his parents had a brand new, 50 Ford, I forget. It was navy blue, and Orville was driving. It was raining hard, and there was a car in front of him, and this couple from Kansas City was coming down and crashed right into the side of him. And you know, Orville and I have always been against seat belts, because if he'd have been in a seat belt, he'd have been killed, because that car was doubled in half. But when it hit, it threw the front seat out, and Orville and the boy just went flying out of the car, and it crushed Orville's pelvic bone and broke a leg and broke an arm, and he was in the hospital all summer in a cast from here down to here. And back then there was no air conditioning, and it got so hot he'd beg for a fly swatter because his hip would just itch and hurt so bad. And finally they took the cast and cut it out just to leave him lay in the mold, and found out that his hip bone had wore clear through, so he's got a big scar on his hip from where that cast was. But he came home and he was able to walk.
Well, I always thought it was when Dad was in the hospital, didn't you send him some photos of you in a swimming suit?
Yeah.
I always liked that story.
Sears and Roebuck, I ordered this turquoise blue bathing suit. It was, one section was satin and kind of dull and all, and I put it on, went up and took pictures in the pond, you know, in the water, all different poses, laying out in the grass and everything. And then we sent the swimming suit back to Sears.
I always thought that was rather enterprising.
But when I mailed them to Grandpa kept them out of his sight. He finally ended up with them, but I was not her favorite person. She still liked Betty. See, Betty Sue came from high society, and the Byrams, you know, Dunivent's was in the club over at Moberly, and so when Orville started going with this little slut from Clifton, you know, she did everything to keep us from going. And that was the reason Grandma was not my favorite person. And at the end of Grandma's life, Grandma Orville was taking her to a mental institution over at Marshall, and she would just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Orville said, "Mom, who are you talking about?" And she said, "Oh, that bitch in the back seat." So that's kind of where I ranked on her. We weren't.
Some things never change. Huh?
No, and she was sweet. She was very sweet when I had the kids. You know, I had a really rough time with the first three with Debbie. It was a breeze. But Mom and her would come take care of us. And we borrowed money for Randy from Orville's mom. And then we borrowed money from Mom to pay for you. And we had both of you at the hospital, and got pregnant.
Ran out of grandparents.
Well, yeah, and we'd never paid them back, as you can imagine. 40 a week, that just barely pays groceries and rent and all that stuff. So I went over at Dr. Dry and I said, "Would you deliver a baby at home, this baby?" You know, because we don't have any money to pay a hospital bill. So he delivered Dawn at home, and I forget what he charged, but it wasn't much. We got her paid for. And then, of course, I got pregnant with Deborah. And by that time, Orville started working on the railroad and had insurance, and we made $40 off of Debbie. So if we had been smart, we'd have stuck with it. But Donna was born at home, and Debbie was born at home, because Dr. Dreyer would come to the house, and we just couldn't see going in debt. But, you know, I just cried and cried when I was pregnant with Donna. And I was so thankful that abortions weren't.
Possible.
It just wasn't the thing. Or I would have had an abortion. And I've told Donna that. I said, Donna, I no more wanted you because I had such a hard time having Randy and Deanna. And when I found out, I contemplated suicide because I cannot do this again. And I said, Donna, you've always been a jewel. I am so thankful abortions weren't. And for some reason, when I got pregnant with Deborah, it was just kind of que sera, sera. Pregnant again.
Right. It's funny how each one hits you so differently.
But I know oh boy, in Orville's class worked at Kroger's over at Mobley, and he said, if I was married to her, I'd keep her pregnant all the time. He told Orville that in the store one day, and I told Orville, I said, what'd he say? And I was like, I don't know. And finally he told me. I said, well, you're doing a pretty good job.
Well, Randy said, somebody said, or I think Sandy was saying last night that somebody said that you had the prettiest legs in Salisbury, so.
Well, she meant Clifton Hill, and I said there wasn't any gal in Clifton Hill that didn't have farmer legs, so that was not much of a compliment. And Orville got voted best looking legs, and he does. His legs is just as good looking now as, and my legs got old, and I can't wear shorts anymore, but he still wears his shorts and looks just as good in them as he ever did.
You and Dad have another anniversary coming up this summer. How many years will that be?
It'll be 62, because we had our 61st last year. But we did a smart thing. We got married the 4th of July. And so we always went, I mean, it was a holiday. And we were always off, and we got to take a trip on our anniversary, and it just became the thing. We were never home on our anniversary. It was a big, big day, and we celebrated. And a lot of people, especially Jody Ivan, we kind of had a fight because she wanted to have family reunion on Memorial Weekend. I said, Jody, I don't care if Debbie and Ben aren't at our reunion. I know everybody can't be every time, but I said, my grandpa died on Memorial Day, and it's kind of a tribute to his memory that I want to have it on Memorial Day. And so we just have it every year and enjoy all the kids. And
how many kids are there to enjoy now?
Well, we had 4 children, which are 3.5 years, the oldest to the youngest. We have 11 grandchildren, and we're looking for our 20th great grandbaby. And Erica,
that keeps you busy making baby quilts, doesn't it?
Quilts and baby doll clothes and Orville was throwing a fit when Lexus come up with my Shirley Temple doll. I got a doll every year for Christmas for 12 years. And then we moved to Missouri, and they left all my dolls in Colorado, which I don't think adults realize how attached some people are. Other people, to Beverly, they were just something pretty to set out. I played with my dolls all the time. And so I have told Alexis, I know a lot of times about my dolls and have to leave them, but I said my favorite doll, when I graduated from 1st to 2nd grade, I got a Shirley Temple doll. And oh my gosh, I just loved her, and I had to leave her. But when we took Eric and Alexis to Colorado, Alexis went in the bedroom, and she came out and she said, is that Grandma's Shirley Temple doll? And Beverly said, that's my Shirley Temple doll. I don't know where your grandma's is. And I looked at Alexis, and I thought, you know, Beverly kept my dolls, and she kept them good, and I can't come back and say, I want my dolls. So I just told her just to be still. So one day she was in an antique store.
I should grab it.
Well, before that, you had sent me that series on Shirley Temple. And I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, that's my dress. Yeah, Deanna sent me this, and I had this dress. If Mom hadn't made such a of herself, I would have never remembered this dress. But this dress had bows that tied on your wrist on the doll, and when you raised the doll's hands, her dress would come up over her head. Well, Mom had made me a dress just exactly to match. And so streetcars have the long seats, but up in front they have that little short seat. Well, I was sitting here, and my doll was sitting here, and of course her arms were up and her dress was overhead. So I thought it'd be cute to pull my dress up over my head. So I'm sitting here with my dress up over my head, and Mom looks up, and everybody's laughing and everything. Mom was horrified. She'd come up, yank me out of that seat and pull me back. Yeah, because Mom never wanted any attention to be brought to her. Well, if she hadn't caused such a scene, I would have never remembered the dress. But when you sent me this, I said, oh my gosh, that's my dress. Mm-hmm. And then when Lexi found the Shirley Temple doll, she knew the story of her. So she had a little yellow dress on, but I had to make her a dress, red and white polka dot like mine. And so it's a fond memory, and I think she's very cute. And she has her skirt. No, it's not tied to her wrist, but anyway, that's...
You don't want her to end up with a spanking.
Well, I didn't get a spanking, but, well, talk about spankings. Mom had a corn on her foot, and you never touched that corn. And one time they was in Safeway grocery store in line, and some kid came up and stepped on Mom's corn, and she hauled off and knocked the way out of her. Well, it happened, and I was standing in front of Mom. This other little kid was behind her, and she looked at the woman and said, oh, I am so sorry.
Shit, that was you.
Yes, was that way. Well, talk about spankings you miss. One night, Beverly and I was in bed, and of course when we stayed at Grandma's, Grandma would yell, you kids, shut up in there. But we would laugh and laugh and laugh. The more she said it, the more things we found funny. Well, one night, Beverly and I was in the bed, and they kept hollering, you all shut up in there, quit that giggling. Well, Dad come in and just whipped the daylights out of what he thought was me, and it was Beverly. And he went back to bed, and she said, wow, that really hurts. I said, yeah, you don't get them very often. I get one a day, one from Mom and one from Dad.
Oh, well, I know we could talk forever. It's fun getting you to reminisce.
Yeah, I used to get so upset with Mom, and I'd say, I'm going to run away from home. I'm just going to run away. And so one night it was pouring down rain, and she said, just run away. Well, my goose was cooked. So I went into the bedroom, I raised the window, and of course the curtains was blowing out the window, and then I crawled under the bed. Well, my big mistake is I left my feet out. And Mom come, whack, whack, whack. So that didn't work. But I always would plan, I'd get so mad I was going to run away and take my little red wagon, but then my little brother come along, and I thought, I can't run away without my baby brother. And how am I going to make a living? Because I would have to take him with me. So I planned to take all the shoe polish in the house and Wayne in the red wagon, and I'd polish shoes and make her living.
Well, at least you had a plan. It's good to have a fallback.
Yeah. Well, when I said I was going to run away, I really meant it, kind of on top, but I hadn't thought the plan through.
Oh my gosh.
So
a friend of ours just posted the other day on Facebook a note that her daughter had written when she was 7. Sorry, this isn't working for me anymore. I'm leaving. So
yeah,
we all experience that.
Yeah. It's a cruel, cruel life. But yeah, I think David's come to the end of his stream. Wow. He doesn't know it, but Ileen could go on for.
Well, I think it's an endless bounty of stories, but we appreciate you letting us record some of them.
Yeah. I never did tell you all the stories because you don't want to tell you.
You told us those stories.
Real. I didn't think I did. I thought I don't want my kids to know I was so ornery, but it made good grandkid fodder.